All right, join me on page 176 of your social studies textbook. We're starting at the top where it says citizenship, democratic values. The right to govern is an important part of freedom. Throughout history, groups of people have sought the freedom to govern themselves. The Nubians were just one group of people who strived for freedom. In about 2000 BC, the Egyptians conquered northern Nubia. The Egyptian pharaoh forced the Nubians there to adopt Egyptian customs, pay tribute, and follow Egyptian laws. By about 1650 BC, some Nubians had regained their freedom and reunited with Cush. So you can see here, this is a map showing kind of the area of Cush, of the Cush civilization, and you see it's closer to where Nubia was. Here is the Nile Delta down here, or further north, I should say. So this was further south along the Nile. Okay, freedom and reconquest. Egyptian control of Nubia did not last long. At the same time, a powerful kingdom arose in southern Nubia and began to drive the Egyptians out of Nubian lands. The ancient Egyptians called the new kingdom Cush. Historians today call it the Kingdom of Kerma for its capital, located near the Third Cataract, where the modern town of Kerma, Sudan, is today. The Kingdom of Cush represents the early beginnings of the Cush civilization. By 1650 BC, the Cushites had regained their independence, or freedom, from Egypt. Free from Egyptian rule, Kerma became a major center for both river and overland trade. Goods such as gold, salt, spices, elephant tusks, and rhinoceros horns moved through Kerma to markets in Egypt and across the Red Sea to Asia. This trade brought great wealth to Kerma. During Kerma's days of prosperity, Cushite kings gained power as well as wealth. Over time, they gained control of much of northern Nubia. The same period was not as good for the Egyptians, especially since the Hyksos controlled northern Egypt. To keep the Egyptians from invading his kingdom, the Cushite king decided to become an ally or supporter of the Hyksos. Cushite kings had no way of knowing that the Egyptians would soon regain their land. The victorious Egyptians forced the Hyksos out of Egypt and into southwestern Asia. Then the Egyptians turned south and destroyed Cush's capital city of Kerma. Okay, turning the page to 177. Following their military successes, the Egyptians claimed control of much of Nubia. This time, Egypt's control of Nubia stretched past the Nile's Fourth Cataract. As a demonstration of strength, the Egyptians built cities and temples all over Nubia. Egypt's rule over Nubia lasted for about 550 years. During that time, the Egyptian pharaoh created a special position called the king's son of Cush. This person was responsible for the day-to-day governing of Nubian lands and for collecting taxes. Under Egyptian rule, the Cushites were encouraged to become much like the Egyptians. Many Cushites adopted Egyptian religious beliefs, writing, customs, and ways of dressing. Okay, turning the page, we're now starting on lesson 2, the new kingdoms of Cush. So this is chapter 5, lesson 2. I'm on page 178. Follow along. You are there. It is 700 BC, and you are proud to be a Cushite living in a beautiful and busy city. New temples and palaces rise toward the sky. Groups of small pyramids dot the land. Everywhere you walk, traders are busy exchanging goods. Visitors from Egypt buy grains, cotton, and cattle. Those from further south in Africa buy products made of iron. In exchange, Cushite traders accept exotic animals, glassware, and statues of Egyptian gods. Okay, continuing on page 179. Cush conquers Egypt. By 800 BC, the kingdom of Cush had begun to regain its strength. The Cushites built a new capital city called Napata, further south on the Nile, where they were free of Egypt's rule. In 780 BC, a Nubian chieftain named Alara started a new dynasty of Cushite kings. This began what some historians call the time of the kingdom of Napata. King Kashta followed his brother Alara as Cush's leader. Kashta kept a careful watch on the weakened Egypt. In about 750 BC, Cush captured Upper Egypt. Later, Kashta's son, Piye, or Pianki, conquered Lower Egypt. Piye's conquest brought all of Egypt under Cushite control. After Piye's death, his brother, Shabaka, claimed the Egyptian pharaoh's throne. He and the Cushite pharaohs who followed him ruled as Egypt's Dynasty 25, or the Cushite dynasty. Perhaps the most successful of all the Dynasty 25 pharaohs was Taharka. Pharaoh Taharka is remembered for the temples he ordered built. The Cushite pharaohs ruled Egypt from about 730 BC to 671 BC and helped restore Egypt to its former glory. They rebuilt temples that had been destroyed and built new ones. All right, thanks for listening and following along, and you can continue on your social studies paper in your Google Classroom. Thanks again, and I'll see you on the next one.